So today marks a very important milestone for an extensive enforcement effort here in Thunder Bay, as well as northwestern Ontario. I'm pleased to report that the first 6 months of Project Disruption have resulted in the seizure of $1.5 million of drugs, 13 firearms, multiple rounds of ammunition, 5 other weapons, over $755,000 in cash, 431 criminal charges, and the arrest of 80 individuals who have been confirmed or suspected of being members of various gangs from Southern Ontario. 6 months ago, the Thunder Bay Police Service created a joint police operation in response to an unprecedented increase in drug trafficking and violence within our city. It was clear from the onset that Thunder Bay and the region had become a destination of choice for persons involved in drug trade. This influx of organized criminal organizations associated with illicit drugs have brought gun violence, death, and suffering for our citizens, many of whom are vulnerable and struggling with addictions. Gangs from Southern Ontario see Northwestern Ontario as a lucrative market. These gangs have developed local criminal connections, and vulnerable persons in our communities have seen their homes taken over by gang members to sell drugs. They have taken advantage of the high addiction rates in our region. They have little respect for life and represent a real threat to community safety. The Thunder Bay Police has partnered with the Ontario Provincial Police, the Anishinaabe-Aski Police Service, and the Anishinaabeg Police Service to combat this very active threat to all of our communities in northwestern Ontario. The sharing of resources and intelligence has resulted in these significant seizures and numerous arrests. Make no mistake, this is an ongoing issue that will not simply go away. It will take continued joint efforts by our agencies. The criminal threat we speak of today is not just a Thunder Bay problem. It is a regional problem. It will take a financial commitment to be able to maintain this success. I am looking forward to the province's announced funding to address guns and gangs. We are in need of these funds here on the ground where this criminal activity is having such a profound effect. I would like to thank our law enforcement partners for their support and excellent work. We should also pause and reflect on the continued need for harm reduction programs to help deal with the addictions which fuel drug trafficking and impact so many individuals. We must continue our collective efforts towards the safety and well-being of all of our communities. Thank you.
To be clear, it takes a strong, integrated, and collaborative community approach to community safety and well-being. The Northwest Region OPP have also made several significant seizures to date in 2019, in addition to what you see here today, including over 12 kilograms of cocaine, over $500,000 in cash, firearms and other weapons being illegally transported on our highways across and through our region, which spans from Marathon to Kenora. These offenders are charged with various criminal offenses. In recent years, the City of Thunder Bay and surrounding communities have experienced an increase in the number of GTA and Ottawa-based street gangs doing business in this area. Early on, the gangs were known to deal primarily in crack cocaine and prescription medication. Their presence was relatively minor, as was the level of violence associated to the gangs. However, over the past 3 years, there has been a marked increase in the number of gang members operating in this area. It's got to the point where they control a significant portion of the illicit drug trade through violence and intimidation. The guns that have been seized, the associated acts of violence, and the cash we've recovered are all evidence of that. In addition to the violence, we are seizing increasingly larger amounts of non-pharmaceutical grade fentanyl. And our communities on the west side of the region are experiencing an influx of crystal meth that has swept across the prairie provinces. This highly addictive drug is being the catalyst for increased violence and victimization in those areas. The products being displayed here today were being distributed through the Northwest and into several Indigenous communities. In those communities, we found that these illicit drugs are sold illegally at 4 times the usual street price to some of our most vulnerable people in the country. Criminals feed off the profit incentive to fuel more criminal activities, which leads to increases in a wide spectrum of violent acts, property crimes, and addictions that cause further harm and victimization. Police across Canada have seen far too many people, mostly young people, die ingesting illegal drugs. As Chief Hoth, Deputy Snyder, and Inspector Johnson recognize, we are already mourning too many lost lives due to addictions fueled by access to illegal prescription meds and illicit drugs. Law enforcement agencies deliver outstanding services every day to the citizens of Ontario. If we are to provide solid professional law enforcement in today's environment, partnerships, as you see here, and at all levels, and in the communities we serve are vital. This investigation clearly demonstrates that we do work together to keep our community safe. I congratulate all of the members involved in this investigation for their dedication and thank them for their hard work on this project. And together, by sharing a common goal and information, we can ensure our communities remain safe. Thanks.
Thank you and good morning. As Chief Lucas mentioned, there's no doubt street gangs have taken significant and tangible steps to establish themselves and their operations in northwestern Ontario. I want to take a minute to provide the current operating picture regarding street gangs from a provincial perspective. It'll lay the groundwork for the various successes Chief Hoth has outlined for you today. As we have often stated, criminals know no boundaries and respect no jurisdictions. They are greedy, violent, and purposely choose to victimize others. The products being displayed here today were being distributed throughout the Northwest and into several Indigenous communities. When it comes to the weapon of choice, they are pretty consistent with street gangs, and that's handguns. Relatively cheap, easy enough to acquire, conceal, and smuggle, and most certainly deadly. Our information is that of the 12 handguns seized in this project, most originated in the United States and were illegally smuggled into Canada. Not a single person charged with a firearm as a result of this project was legally allowed to have one. Street gangs have evolved and migrated into regional businesses, if you will. Calling them street gangs actually does them and us a disservice, causing many to underestimate their sophistication. Their members are agile, well organized, and have the ability to migrate, infiltrate, and affect vulnerable communities everywhere. They have developed complex networks of support and supply chain logistics that are every bit as effective as known organized crime groups. These metropolitan-based organized crime groups have been operating and evolving for years, allowing for advanced preparation to operate in and from major population centers across Canada, including Ontario's urban centers and places like Ottawa and Toronto. In this case here in Thunder Bay, the most prevalent gangs encountered are GTA-based, the Galloway Boys, Ardwick Bloods, and the Thorncliffe Park Kings. Street gangs, as they operate today, without question, are organized crime groups. Their standard operating procedures have all the characteristics of organized crime: handguns, human trafficking, intimidation, violence, and the distribution and sale of multiple types of lethal and illicit drugs. Their customers or victims are often vulnerable people in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. And what I can say today with certainty is that Thunder Bay and Northwest Ontario are not alone or unique. This is happening in communities throughout Ontario. Over the past decade, the OPP and our partners have identified an increased presence of GTA and Ottawa-based organized crime groups migrating into smaller cities and communities across Ontario in order to traffic in controlled substances. Over the past year, police have noted a significantly increased threat to public safety directly related to these organized crime groups. We have found a dramatic increase in the number of loaded handguns being seized, as well as the introduction of highly addictive and lethal substances, such as fentanyl and heroin, being trafficked. Now, although this trend appears to be more prevalent in central and northern Ontario, eastern and southwestern Ontario are witnessing similar trends. The ripple effect these groups are having is impacting communities through the distribution of dangerous opioids such as fentanyl. Our analysts have identified criminal activity by these groups operating in every detachment area of our central region. They've also noted an increase in associated violence, threats, intimidation, assaults, robberies, and home invasions. A further disturbing trend that investigators are finding is the existing localized criminal element are becoming increasingly involved in violent interactions with urban-based dealers as they vie for control of the drug trade. This only leads to more violence and the potential for collateral harm, which we've seen elsewhere. Innocent bystanders and children being hurt or killed while confrontation between two or more criminals escalates. The Northeast region is experiencing a similar increase in seizures of loaded handguns and dangerous opioids. However, street gang presence is generally confined to larger centers such as Sudbury, North Bay, and Timmins, as well as the vulnerable and remote First Nations communities. There is a marked increase in the number of traffic stops, resulting in seizures of handguns, controlled substances, and cash as these organized crime groups travel through various areas. In the Northwest region, the vast majority of incidents involving GTA and Ottawa-based organized crime groups have occurred in the city of Thunder Bay. However, over the past 18 months, there have been a number of incidents involving these groups in Greenstone, Marathon, Nipigon, and Fort Frances. Again, street gangs are agile, mobile, and have the ability to organize quickly, and they are impacting the criminal subculture significantly in the city of Thunder Bay. The supply of drugs being trafficked by these organized crime groups are undoubtedly contributing to our overdose crisis. The Organized Crime Enforcement Bureau is committed to community safety and the delivery of investigative excellence to support frontline OPP officers, our policing partners, like our partners here today, and other justice sector stakeholders. Our shared goal is to dismantle and disrupt criminal operations and enhance public safety. Smuggling and distribution of illegal drugs and the proliferation of guns lead to an increase in a wide spectrum of violent acts and property crimes. The illegal drugs seized indicates the extent to which street gangs will go to achieve profits while hurting our communities and destroying lives. Project Disruption is a great example of a multi-jurisdictional investigation that demonstrates dedication and teamwork required to keep our communities safe. But we need the public's help. We need people to remain vigilant for their own safety, for their family's safety, for their neighbors' safety. We need everyone to understand that their police service is there to support them. You play an important role in preserving public peace, and we remind anyone seeing any illegal activities to call the police or to remain anonymous, call Crime Stoppers, and report the crime. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. So I'd like to start out, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Thunder Bay Police Chief Sylvie Howarth and the entire Thunder Bay Police Service for inviting the Anishinaabe Police Service to participate in this very important project, Disruption. I would also like to acknowledge our partners, the Ontario Provincial Police and the Anishinaabe Police Service for their contributions to this project as well. The Anishinaabe Police Service covers a large geographical area in the province and provides policing to 34 First Nation communities. Each of these communities has a chief, council members, and elders to provide leadership to their community members. I would like to take this time to thank all of our community leaders for the support and input in taking a stand against the drug issues in the communities. Throughout the year, NAPS management meets with community leaders to discuss policing issues on a regular basis. Time and time again, the main topic, the main concern brought forth by the community leadership is the drug issues in their respective communities and how to better combat this problem. Local community leaders observe firsthand the damage and impact the drug crisis is having on community members. Our officers work tirelessly to stop the flow of illegal drugs to our communities. However, it is very difficult to control the drug issues in our communities with the limited specialty units that the Anishinaabe Police Service is currently funded for. We are aware the drug and gang activity in the local area has been filtering into our northern communities, which is of great concern to the Anishinaabe Police Service and the community leaders. For this reason, joint efforts such as Project Disruption are so very important to fight this issue collectively as it impacts the entire region. The Anishinaabe Police Service Chief of Police Roland Morrison and I are very pleased with the results of Project Disruption in the short time it has been in operation. The Anishinaabe Police Service is committed to continue in the partnership of Project Disruption with the Thunder Bay Police Service, the Anishinaabe Police Service, and the OPP to make all of our communities a safer place to live and raise our families. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues and especially all of the members for their hard work and dedication throughout this investigation. It demonstrates their commitment to public safety as well as the communities they serve. Secondly, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the assistance of the public during this project. You play such an important role in reporting suspicious and criminal activity to police. Without your help, results like this would not be possible. The Anishinaabe Police Service serves 16 First Nation communities, starting from Fort William First Nation in the District of Thunder Bay to Curve Lake First Nation near Peterborough. The impact of these gangs are not isolated to the District of Thunder Bay. They are preying on many of our First Nation communities. The actions of these gang members and their associates are extremely detrimental to our First Nation communities. These gangs prey on our vulnerable people, contribute to addictions, mischief, and property crimes, and use threats, violence, and intimidation to control people. The sale of illicit and prescription drugs is strictly for financial gain without any empathy to the individuals they are hurting nor their families. Although the population of our First Nation communities is not as vast as other municipalities, since 2012 we have experienced 112 reported overdose incidents, 8 of which resulted in death. That number is too high. As indicated earlier, criminals are not confined by boundaries or jurisdictions. We as policing partners will continue to work together to be successful. The Anishinaabe Police Service will continue to support our policing partners, especially for safe and healthy Anishinaabe and non-First Nation communities. Thank you.